I want to thank you guys for tuning in here to the Size and Placement Trends webinar powered by Stalls and Transfer Express. My name is Dave. I've been in the apparel decorating industry here for, I think, 14, coming up on 15 years. That all started with learning how to screen print pretty much on my kitchen table, right? From inks, emulsions, squeegees, everything from ink viscosity to squeegee durometer. It was a learning curve, right? There wasn't the education out there with YouTube and all these blogs like there is now. So I learned the hard way. Now, I have had the luxury of working through 3 enormous commercial printing shops in the past 14 years of working in the industry. So I'm able to see pretty much any way you could put ink on a substrate. I've been there. I've been around it. I've helped market it. I've prepped artwork for it. I did kind of come into the industry as a designer, so I'm a very art-heavy background, but now with a whole bunch of marketing experience in the past 3 years here at Stalls, helping decorators like you succeed. I am dedicated to your success, and I use all of the resources we have here at Stalls and Transfer Express to help grow your business. So if you have any questions, let us know over in that chat section, or if you're watching the replay of this, let us know down in the comments. We always love to keep the conversation going. But today we're going to be talking about size and placement trends. So we don't have the double Dave here. Oh, hi, Dave. I'm having too much fun today. I have a lot of fun on these things. But today we're going to be covering a few very important things. Of course, we're going to be looking at trending print placements. I have some samples here, as well as a ton that we've got right here that we're going to be able to show off in just a little bit. But we're going to start with talking about image sizing, right? So image size is a lot to plan for, especially when you're going through mock-ups or doing your artwork first before you're going to be heat printing it, or even decorating, regardless of how you're putting ink on your garments. We're going to talk about the best image sizes for a few different things, some things to look out for when you're planning. We're also going to be talking about multiple shirt sizes all in one order and what to do. I've heard from a lot of decorators that they're adjusting things, but we'll talk about some quick tips and solutions that are going to streamline the process for you and look absolutely stellar so your customers are pumped, right? We're also going to talk about some standard placements and some methods that you could use, like print placement tools that are going to get you in those standard placements. We'll talk about all of why it's important and why it matters to you as a decorator and your customers, which you may already know, but we'll cover some of those tips as well. So if you guys are ready to jump in, we could jump right in. And that's a little sneak preview. I think it's over on this side because my camera's reversed, of that nice little family with a whole bunch of little print placements all around them: the standard adult, the caps, the hearts, the sleeves, the youth smalls, and even toddler baby onesie prints and stuff as well. Awesome. So let's roll right in here. So when we first start talking about size and placement, it is important for several reasons to your customers, to you as a business, and to the finished quality of the product. Number one, it's going to build value in your apparel with that professional retail quality product. That's why somebody's coming to you to decorate. And hopefully that's the differentiator that stands you apart from, oh, my buddy, my cousin has a Cricut machine, I'm just going to go with them. They're looking for that professional retail ready result, right? So you're using quality products, you're using quality decorations, applying them correctly so they are going to last that lifespan of the garment, that 50 plus wash dry cycles. But also this is going to build trust. And I always defer back to this, my time that I've spent in the printing industry. It's much more like custom manufacturing than just regular e-commerce or going to a store and buying something. So when somebody comes to you with an idea, they are trusting us as the decorator to be able to bring their idea to life, right? So this usually I like to handhold through the process with stuff like digital mock-ups, right? Where it builds confidence, they build trust, like, okay, you just visualized what was in my head, my idea of my logo on my shirt, wherever the placement may be, the sizing, that's exactly what I want it to look like, right? So that's going to cover your customer on that trust end. It's also going to cover you, right? So then you have something to match to and use as a reference to say, when they say, oh man, that logo looks huge, like, well, it looks identical to how the proof I gave you approved it. Now, that is a very, very rare circumstance to run into, especially when you're using proofs and digital mock-ups to sell your apparel. So that's one thing that I always just want to get out of the way very quickly, but that is what's going to help build that trust. And when we talk about trust, when you deliver that final product, you want your customer to be just jazzed about that product, right? You don't want them to be like, no, it's not exactly how I envisioned it turning out. So there is this level of trust. So nailing the correct placements, nailing the correct sizing, and being able to recommend that too. Because I've had plenty of people who say like, we want it 15 inches wide. And you're like, you're ordering extra smalls, that it's just going to look awful. Or you're ordering hoodies and it's going to go over that pocket and it's going to look bad, right? So as a pro with some of these tips and techniques that we'll get through here today, will set you up to being that pro, to be able to recommend the correct sizing for your customers, as well as reducing costly returns and reprints, right? If you're misprinting shirts, or you're, say, the most common thing I see, and I put this in the one video that we did that was the top 10 mistakes, is placement is one of those top 10 mistakes, but like belly prints, right? So I am not going to wear a shirt that puts the logo down here so far that you can't even see. I'll back up a little bit so you can see me in my little screenshot. But down here, you don't want to wear that. It's unflattering for a lot of people to wear. So you want to make sure those front graphics sit on the chest. And now that's something that I see a lot of just entry level decorators kind of get into the trouble of, because they'll see a t-shirt, right? And they'll go, oh, centered. And when you're laying a t-shirt down flat on a table or something before you print it, or laying on a heat press, right? You're like, well, the center of the shirt is centered right there, right? Well, that actually turns out to be on the belly. All of these prints that you see on the shelves at Target and Walmart and Old Navy and all of these retail stores are all up on the chest. So the easiest way I've ever been able to, regardless of the size of the shirt, regardless of the style of the shirt, regardless if it's a long sleeve or a short sleeve, always, I will go from where that armpit seam meets the side seam of the garment, or just the body of the garment if it's a tubular tee, and make sure, so that for me, if I go right here, I go right on over. This end up is going to be my chest area. Now, of course, if I have a super, super tall graphic, I'm going to kind of center it to that, because then we're going to be very, very close up here, right? But this is going to differ. We'll look at some styles and some placements here that are going to break that norm. But in that standard placement, you definitely want to be there. And we'll get into that a little bit more in depth. But you see how important placement and sizing could be. This is a make or break for somebody becoming a lifelong customer who loves your products, or somebody who orders once and never comes back. And I like to say, at least in my experience with everybody who's known me in the past decade or so, it's Dave the t-shirt guy, right? Everybody comes to me for shirts because they know I'm the pro, regardless if, and I say no a lot, I'm a very, very busy person, and the side hustle is not nearly as strong as it once was. But everybody comes to me as a trustworthy source because I've nailed it out of the park so many times. So you want to do that to your customers, and that's going to make a humongous, tremendous impact in your business, especially when you're trying to grow. So we're definitely going to do that. We are going to show pictures of spacing, and we're going to get into some placement techniques here coming up in just a minute in there. Yes, we have a full presentation loaded with tons of tips, but I should continue to move on so we're not here all afternoon, right? So here, let's talk about sizing for a full front placement, right? So sizing for a full front, I like to say, is 11 by 11 inches, right? So even when we talk about small sizes to larger sizes, for an adult, an 11 by 11 inch print is going to be quite large on the front. So let's say this one here, this is one of our placement rulers, which we're going to talk about these placement rulers and tips here in a second. But this is the placement ruler from Transfer Express. Essentially, it aligns to the collar of a graphic to make center lining or your left chest, right chest very, very easy. But this one here, if you saw, there's a ruler at the bottom of it. Oh, there we go. Camera adjusts. It goes to about 11 inches. It's 5 on each side with about a ½ inch. So as you can see, for just a full front standard placement for me, this is quite a large graphic, right? It fills out. I'm wearing an extra large crew neck sweatshirt right now. So right here is 11 inches, right? So you could easily see, and even if you don't have one of these, you probably just have a regular ruler, right? And a ruler is your friend, especially when maybe you're doing some weird crop shirts. Those crop tees, or I should say weird, they are incredibly popular right now and super on trend, but those could be slightly smaller. So like you're reducing your height. So being able to take a ruler and make sure that you're not ordering transfers or prints or burning screens, however you're doing it, that you are ordering your transfers to be the correct size that are going to fit. So a ruler is your friend, right? So 11 by 11 inches, we consider that full standard, let's say center chest, right? If you want to go larger, say we're going to go into a super maxing out print area. If it's 12 inches, say by like 15 inches, let me see if I can grab a shirt here that goes a little bit more into that. So something like this, right? That is a nice big full front print. But as I hold this one up, I do want to mention one thing, that things look different as they are flat or held up like this versus worn, because the human body, when we talk about sizing and placement, and especially apparel decorating, the human body is a kind of odd shape, right? Our heads actually come off the front of our body, not like directly up. Like you could see if I hold this t-shirt up itself, that front neckline dips lower than the back, right? Because the back of our neck kind of comes more straight up than the front, right? So we are this weird shape and we have depth to us, right? So all of this fabric here on the side of the shirt, right, is on the side of the body. So while you might show a customer this and they're like, wow, there's a lot of space on either side. If we grab our trusty, and let me just close this slideshow so we could go real big here. And so I could show you here on our trusty mannequin right here with our nice left chest print. I'm just going to take this one off and I'll show you. It kind of glows with the lights. That's pretty cool. That's pretty nifty, right? So let's see this huge full front print. Now this is larger than 11 by 14 inches. This print here, I believe, is almost maxing out a jumbo gang sheet here with us. I would say that's probably 12 by even more. But as you see that on our mannequin right here, look at that. There's all of this extra fabric here that we saw on the side that is now actually on the side of the body. So this maxes out this print area at just 12 inches wide, right? So this is a huge standard full front. I wouldn't even say this is a left chest or a center chest print. This is a huge full front print. And we'll get into placement here in just a little bit, but I do want to mention that we usually recommend about down from the collar about 3 fingers or 2.5 to 3 inches right there. But as you can see here, if I hold this up, we are completely eclipsing that first line of text. But that's because when I'm talking about those armpits, right? Let's go to the armpit right there, is in the middle of our graphic. So we know it's not going to, of course, it's going to end up on our belly here a little bit, but the main meat of this graphic, the visual weight, rodeo, the cowboy, is sitting up here on the chest and makes it look absolutely phenomenal. All right, we're going to move him aside. I'm going to go back to our slides here so we could keep rolling, and I'll pull this chat back up as well. But there's going to be tons of these examples as we go through. But if you have any questions at any time, try to stop me and I'll be able to answer it. But Mike will be able to answer those too. So that's adult standard, right? We got this one here. We can pull back into our background. That is our standard 11 by 11. So of course you could go bigger. Of course you could go smaller, whatever you want to do. But there's a few tips when we start talking about adult shirts, right? So I always size to the smallest garment on the order. We have a great example coming up in the slideshow of sizing to an extra small, even though the full run of shirts, the customer was ordering extra small all the way up to 2X, right? So using that same size graphic, which is about 11 inches wide, fit great. So we'll get to that here in just a minute. But also keep in mind the limitations of your press or the heat printing platens that you have, right? Platens being that lower surface of the heat press. So with that being said, if you have a 16 by 20 heat press, you could print any sizes. But if you have something smaller like the pink craft press where it's 9 by 12, you want to ensure that you give yourself at least a ½ inch or more of wiggle room on your size. So you don't want to max it out at 9 by 12 inches, because then if you're off slightly, you're going to have an application issue. So you want to make sure that it's going to fit the size of your platen. It's going to fit the smallest size of your order. When we start talking about placement and sizing, we also have to think about some of those seams, right? Any obstructions, things like that that are going to get in the way of our print size. Raglan seams are a common issue. And I think I have one here. We'll get to it when I start showing off some styles in just a little bit, because I'm gonna go pull through all of my samples here and mess them all up. But essentially, we'll show you an example of how those raglan seams get in the way. One thing to keep in mind too, just like this one that we see on screen right here, is a hoodie pocket. So I usually, if somebody wants a hoodie print on the front of a just regular standard pullover hoodie, I am not going larger than about 10.5 inches, because on, say, an extra small or a small, that from the neckline here all the way down to the hoodie pocket, that's going to be 10.5 inches right there. So that gets very, very close to that hoodie pocket. We want to stay away from those seams and obstructions and even keep them off the printing area for perfect prints. We have tons of YouTube videos on that and getting that flat, even surface. So you could check those out there. I don't want to get too much into those application issues right now. We want to stay focused on our sizing and placement. So some things to look out for, but yes, that standard 11 by 11 inches is going to be perfectly sized for everything. So I see a question here. When you size the transfer to the smaller shirt size in the order, the placement on a 2X or 3X makes it look too small. I have an image that may be contrary to that statement there. And then I saw a question from Wyatt here. What about sizing for XL, 3X, or even 5X? Would 11 by 11 be small on them? So a 5X is a enormous garment, right? Compared to, say, an extra small. If you're going from those sizing, there's just a lot more fabric on that. So with that being said, a 5X, it's going to look perfectly fine with an 11 by 11. Like I mentioned, like myself, I'm not the smallest person, right? And I am, let's say, deeper, right? So a lot of that extra fabric that we're talking about on the garment itself is on the side. So when you're talking in the front, right? In the front, an 11 by 11 is going to look great. I have a great example coming up that we're all going to be able to see for that and be able to get those. So we'll cover that here in just a little bit. Now, when we start talking about youth is where I usually will make the distinction between a adult size and a youth size, because youth is going to cap you at the largest at about 10.5 inches on those youth larges, extra larges, which start to overlap into like the extra small and small territories when we're talking about the adult sizes, right? So when we are in that youth, medium to large, you could get away with a 10.5 as a maximum, but now you're going to want to get into maybe more of a 9-inch, an 8-inch if you have youth smalls on the order. I most of the time I've ever done youth garments, they span almost the entire size, because you're decorating for an elementary school or like a class field trip or a family where there are sizes smattered everywhere in there. Typically, you'll only see like youth large, extra large, and those larger sizes of that youth line if you're decorating specifically for like a 5th grade, a 4th grade. But even some of those kids now, kids these days are just gigantic. My 5-year-old, I feel like she's just so they're even starting to get into not my 5-year-old, but those 4th, 5th graders are starting to get into a little bit larger sizes, or even wearing adult smalls and stuff like that. So that's when you could get away with a little bit larger size. But toddler, 5 by 5. So those are those 2T, 3T, 4T shirts, as well as like baby onesies and stuff. You'll want to typically stay 4.5 inches or so on those. So those kind of scale proportionately. If you want to loop all of the youths together, somewhere in an 8.5 or a sometimes even 9-inch or 9-inch wide range are more than okay to span those sizes. But I will typically make that distinction of youth sizes get their own size, as well as larger sizes, right? So sizing for left chest here, as left chest is a incredibly popular trending placement that we've seen a lot in the last year, from streetwear to corporate logo wear, businesses, uniforms, you name it, that people are printing left chests on it. I've seen more left chest prints this year and kind of trailing off of last year than I've seen in a very, very long time. So the standard left chest print, pretty much since forever, and I've always used it as a industry standard, is 4.5 by 4.5 inches. Now, 4.5 by 4.5 inches, if it's a circle, very similar to this graphic right here, that's quite large. Let me just show you 4.5 inches. So say if I had a 4.5 inch area, right? 4.5 inches is to my finger. So like finger to finger, that's fine. If it's like one little word of text, that's perfect, right? But Then if we're doing a circle here, let me fold a piece of paper. One of my favorite things, if you don't have anything around you, you're trying to figure out sizing, just take a piece of paper and a ruler and fold the piece of paper down to the right size, right? I'm just folding on my desk so you can see it right here. So let's get over to 4.5 inches. So that's just gonna pull in about a 1/2 inch here, right? So we'll fold in about a 1/2 inch, and let me go to 4.5 inches this way, right? So that's gonna put us right about here. So let me go ahead and fold this one up right here. So a 4.5 by 4.5 square on me looks pretty gigantic, right? So we've seen as graphics are more in this standard kind of circle or square shape, you'll definitely scale them down to more of a 3-inch or 3.5 by 3.5 inch. The same goes for those circle or square graphics that you're putting on a full front, right? 11 inches of a full front circle, 11 inches, right? If it was just one line of text or a logo, looks great. But as soon as we put a big circle, that's a circle going from here all the way over to here. And it's going to look enormous. So I'd scale that down to even like a 10-inch or so. That's not going to dominate the whole front of like an extra small or a small garment on that. So definitely want to keep that in mind when you're looking at these left chest placements or those graphics that are perfect circles or perfect squares. Because yeah, something like this, I made this mistake personally, right? I was doing some hoodies and I was in charge of doing the holiday hoodies. The company every single year would buy hoodies for the entire staff, and we put the square logo 4.5 by 4.5 inches wide, right? And it looked gigantic. It was like a streetwear logo, right? So boom, right there. We'd put that right on our shirt, and people thought it was cool, but a lot of people were like, man, that logo is huge, right? And you want to avoid that. You want your customers to be absolutely stoked about it. So if they're like, yeah, let's do 4 inches wide, like, hey, do you know what 4 inches wide is going to look like? And be able to show them that with just this. I use mannequins all the time too, where I'll grab the mannequin and just hold it up and go, yeah, that's going to be a gigantic print on the mannequin for a left chest, right? So we have a lot of these tips packed into our perfect placement video that we have over on the Transfer Express YouTube page. That'll get you set up with a lot of those little tips and tricks. The paper trick I use in that video as well. So thanks, pullover prints. That's a great way to put it in. So standard for left chest is horizontal 3.5, vertical 3.5, round 3-inch, square 3-inch. Exactly. You're scaling it down to not dominate as much visual weight with that. So that's a great tip. Thank you for sharing. And that's, I got to say, absolutely love the apparel decorating community for you guys helping each other out and lending your own advice. It's great. It's what makes webinars like this so great and really uplifts the entire community. So I applaud you guys. That's absolutely fantastic. Kathy says the usual is 3.5 to 3.75. And Carr asked for that Transfer Express placement video, perfect placement and positioning. And then there's also a sizing one too. So, there, Mike's already on it with the links in there. 3.5 for corporate logo wear, Pam says. So yeah, looks like everybody's here on the same page. 4.5, James says 4.5 is more of an athletic look. I do a lot of corporate horizontal logos that seem to be 3.5. Thoughts, right? That gets us to our last point here as we'll move on from left chest, is that it is much smaller these days. Everybody is kind of trending to a more, dare I say, minimalist logo placement, which we're going to see some examples of, and some are even much smaller than 3 inches, right? But the pocket size. So if you're printing on a pocket tee, which I have some examples of pocket tees, you're never going to go larger than 3.5 inches because that's typically about how large that pocket is. And when you go over the pocket size, it looks a little weird, looks a little funny, right? Chuck just got a 4 by 2.92 and they look awesome. Yes, but a 4 by 2.92 is not a super square graphic, but that's a nice logo. That's a nice looking logo, right? That's a perfect size, right? So we'll get that in there. Katie asked if there's a sizing PDF available for easy reference, and there absolutely is. I will task Mike with finding that sizing guide. That is just an awesome, easy reference. I know I handed a whole bunch out of print-outed versions, but down in Impressions in Fort Worth. But Mike will be able to find that PDF guide. You can download it and be able to pull that one in there. But yes, we are seeing a trend to much smaller placements, whether it be full center chest graphics, left chest graphics, the upper backs, even like little embellishments, people trying to match the little like Adidas or the Nike swoosh on those bicep prints where everything is getting a little bit smaller. So that's a trend that we've been seeing. And as we talk about print sizing, you will start to see a little bit smaller and smaller and smaller. But now you got to keep into consideration your print method so you don't go too small and don't lose anything. And one thing that's really kind of driving that placement is making it easy to be able to decorate on hats and headwear too, right? So the maximum size we typically call out for a cap is going to be 4 inches wide by 2.25 inches tall. So that's 2.25 inches tall. And now the first few times that I was doing headwear, and whether it be embroidery or the those leather patches, or here with the PVC that we see right here, or even Ultra Color Max, right? Customers will see like, oh man, 2 inches, that's really small. Can we get it like a lot bigger? But once you put it on a cap itself, 2.25 inches here is this large, right? That's 2.25 inches on a cap. That's a tall graphic. That's perfectly fine. So people have their own, misconceptions or preconceived notions of size. And so you want to be sure that you can measure and make sure you see or accurately represent the product. So this one right here, this the PVC patch that we see over on the white hat here is 2.2 inches high. So it is perfectly filling out the space of that cap, which looks to be a little bit higher profile imperial cap right there. We did print on some very, very similar ones down in Atlantic City this year that did kind of have that higher profile. So you could see that or the higher crown on that. So like, even though you see that, it fills out the space perfectly fine. And then most heat presses too, right? Not just the garment, but we're looking back to the technology and the equipment that we have, that you need to make sure that we are fitting on our press itself. So IQ 360, that awesome lower heated platen, does start to round off at the back. So I stay within that 2.25 inch range. I think you can max it to 2.5, but just like I was talking about that craft heat press, that you're limited to that 9x12 range, that you want to stay away from the edges to avoid any misprints, because then what's really close to the edge or maybe slightly off is not going to be getting that full pressure that you need for that absolute awesome quality, durable application. So make sure that you're applying them right and giving yourself just a slight little bit of space to be able to keep in from the end. Now, as we talk about caps here, one of the big trending placements that we've seen recently is the off-center print, right? Especially when you're looking at these 6-panel caps that do have the seam directly down the middle versus that 5-panel that we see on the Imperial right there, or a trucker cap like that. The foam front trucker caps are incredibly popular and have been since I was in high school. I don't want to date myself, so we're not saying any years right now. But you'll see that left chest placement coming as well as the 360 makes it possible to decorate all around the cap. So you'll see them on the side as well as over the snap on the back, or on fitted hats, kind of in that branding location right in the middle back of the cap too. So there's a ton of branding potential, but you'll always, regardless of what area of the hat you're decorating, you don't want to exceed that 2.25 by 4 inches wide. So I always size by height because that is my first limiting factor right there. Would you use the same size in the middle, Carrie? Yes, I would use the same size in the middle, depending on the logo, right? So a 2.5 or 2.25 by 2.25 circle is going to look just like that, where the PCC kind of breaks the bounds. It would look great as that circle, right? So even a square shape. I have a great example of a diamond shape coming up. So we definitely have, middle of the back, you would definitely want that to be a little bit smaller. That would be a large print for the back. And so you typically see those smaller minimalist branding locations, or like the curved arch text that follows the arch of the back of the snapback. I don't have any hats here quick in close range, but it's always good to size to that because those differ on hats. So if you're not matching that curve exactly, it looks a little weird. So that's definitely a more advanced placement that typically you would charge more for somebody to be able to do that. So definitely something to keep in mind. Now, the same thing goes for beanies, right? You want to be doing beanies in that same limitation of what you could do on your press proper. So this is a great little St. Patrick's Day one right here with the faux suede, which if you haven't seen the faux suede, go get yourself a Flex Style and Dimensional Emblems and Patches sample pack and get all of those samples from the PVC, the faux suede, the leather, the faux leather, and I'm forgetting the Flex Style, of course. Am I forgetting any in there? I don't know. Go get yourself a sample pack. You're going to want to start decorating hats if you aren't already with some of those. I have some great examples too that are using those dimensional raised products, that really kind of premium branding on non-headwear items, and it looks absolutely incredible. I know the faux suede and the woven, that was one I was missing right there. The faux suede and the woven patches look so great when they're put on bags or polos, anything else like that, right? So definitely want to do it. Let's see. Just to the chat, you have to use a 5-panel cap for a center press? No. You could absolutely go over the seam. Skip Davis is one of our hat gurus that we always defer to. He runs D4 Graphics out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And he has a great video that we did in collaboration with him. He came into the studio with Josh, and they did a whole bunch of like heat printing hat myths and techniques. And he went right over, even with Ultra Color Max, so a direct to film transfer, went right over that front seam on a 6-panel cap. You could leave it kind of above the cap so it's not sinking in, or if you want that like printed look, you could even push it down in the seam while it's still hot, and the glue and the adhesives will adhere to that and just make it look like a super premium good style hat. So Joanne, great question. How do you heat print a beanie? There are quite a few ways to do it depending on what kind of beanies that you're printing on. Now, beanies typically involve some acrylic fabric, okay? So as soon as it's very heat sensitive, so as soon as it starts touching heat, especially when you're stretching it around a platen and then you heat print it, it loses its elasticity, it starts to stretch out, it scorches, you could see the heat press marks on it. So you just want to be very, very cautious and safe when you're decorating on those. Now, that being said, that's if you're using an acrylic beanie. There are great techniques that we learned from Skip from D4 Graphics as well about being able to print those flat. If you're not already a member of the Heat Press for Profit community on Facebook, go over right now, search Heat Press for Profit. Maybe Mike might even be able to link to it right here and join that group, because that's a place where we first started learning some of these tips from Skip, right? Because he was like, hey, I'm doing a whole bunch of beanies. I'm going to lay them all flat. And he actually presses all of these beanies with just a little kind of like cardboard insert to kind of raise and make sure the print area stays nice and flat. But he prints them with a flat press, an auto clam or Hotronix Fusion. I just saw a great video from Shelby from Awesome Apparel, who was doing the same thing. I think she did like 6,000 beanies with a leatherette or a leather on them. And she was able to do them like 6 at a time on a flat press. So just the heat press you already have in your house, you could be able to be putting some dimensional products on these beanies. That is absolutely incredible. Now, I did talk about acrylic, but I do want to mention that there are tons of 100% polyester options, which are much more forgiving to work with. And I even saw a couple of cotton dominant blends coming out as well, which just makes them super, super easy to decorate. No need to buy a sewing machine or an embroidering machine. Learn how to digitize files and wait 14 minutes for it to be able to produce one of them. No. With a heat press, almost anything is possible, and you're able to decorate great looking quality beanies just like this, saving you time, saving you money, and still wowing your customers, right? So I saw a question about construction hats, but it looks like Mike grabbed that one. What transfer types could you use on the beanies besides a patch? I would always recommend something with a little bit more dimension, as those fibers usually are a little bit thicker. So something like the foam, the silicone dye block, and then being able to even put an Ultra Color Max on that. So that's one thing that we saw Skip doing, he's kind of making his own patches at home, right? He'll cut a piece of the soft foam and be able to put a Ultra Color Max on top of it. So you have the best of both worlds. You have a full color graphic, you have some nice intricate detail, some printing that is on a nice patch that's going to sit on top of them. He's even done, you gotta get to that group and search it. He's even done some, some like gloves, some knit gloves, right? And being able to put the logo right on the cuff of those for a local tavern that has some like outdoor events or a brewery or something. That's like brilliant, genius. And that's like that pro level decorator where you want to be able to suggestively sell those items as well. Hey, I know you guys are doing, the hats for this winter event. Throw in some gloves there as you're decorating too, to show them what's possible. And I believe he got an order for like 40 gloves immediately upon delivering those sample gloves. They're like, yes, we absolutely love these, right? So yes. Let's see. You were asked and talked about heat pressing beanie, but didn't get an answer on the method to use. Yes. So print methods to use. There's a ton of different products I could use. All of these dimensional products that Mike just linked that sample pack to, whether it be the leather, the PVC, the woven labels, the faux suede, like we see here on this one. Great decorating methods that you could print with either a 360 IQ cap press or a regular cap press or a flat heat press, right? So there's a lot of great videos over on our YouTube page that actually show the entire process, but there are many, many ways that you could decorate a beanie with a heat press. You could also embroider them if you want to. There's some of those 100% polyester ones that you could sublimate on, but now sublimating with them, especially when they're knit weave, you want to make sure you're getting the inks down in that weave, and it's just going to be a large hassle. Or you could stitch like leatherette onto it as well with no adhesive. So there's tons of different ways that you can put it on there. I'm going to say that the easiest is with a heat press because it's cheap. You don't have to buy any expensive. Did you see the price of an embroidery machine these days? They're quite expensive, right? So some great stuff to put in there. And Mike threw that chat or that link in there to the Facebook group as well. So as we talk about size, we could go into the EasyView Online Designer at transferexpress.com. And since we're all friends right now, I can tell you that the EasyView Online Designer will be coming soon to stalls.com as well. So if you like being able to design your own files, combine them, change colors, change your sizing, you're going to have all of those same controls when you're ordering Ultra Color Max over on stalls.com coming very, very soon in the future. So keep an eye out for that coming very soon. But in the EasyView Online Designer, or EasyView LTE as it will be called on the Stalls side, over in the left-hand edit menu, you're always able to edit your size. So you can verify the size as you're ordering it. Now, if you're unfamiliar with EasyView Online Designer, we have tons of education on it. I'm not going to go and screen share into EasyView today because then we're going to be here for like 3.5, 4 hours, right? So want to make sure that we are sticking to our topic here. But in EasyView, you could design, you could mock up, you could do all of these powerful tools without being a graphic designer, without having graphic design skills. You don't even need to be able to draw a stick figure, and you're able to create artwork that people are actually going to want to wear, just like what we're seeing right here for this Rampage tattoo shop, right? So there's tons of pre-made layouts that you could easily just double click and customize. You could change the sizing like we see highlighted right here on the screen, as well as editing all of the colors in your file. So you could combine this, say they have their own tiger mascot that they want overlaid on this. You could easily grab the clip art that's already on the file, just delete it out and upload your own to combine with all of these layouts. So very, very powerful, very cool. And keep an eye out for that coming soon on stalls.com. If anybody asks, I didn't tell you, okay? Okay. We're cool? Cool. Cara, that's a great question. Is there any way we could license EasyView Designer for our website? Would be great for wood cutout designs. Yes, we've heard it a lot. I know the development team is working hard on making it more available for more customers because we know how big of a powerful tool, how easy it is to help your customers out. And I've heard from a lot of decorators who even are designers and have graphic design skills for the simple, hey, I just need some curved text, a football helmet in the middle. They'll go to EasyView and take what would take them as being super proficient designers designing in 20 or 30 minutes, right? But they would charge their customer for that, right? Time is money. They essentially take all that time down to browse the idea book catalog, which all of this artwork is in here. They'll take a minute or two, pull it up, double click, change everything. And they took 20, 30 minutes of work and condensed it down to 2. And now they offer that design for free to their customers, which any other competitor on the internet is not doing, right? And it's setting them apart from other decorators in their area to be like, hey, well, no, they're going to charge you for design. They'll charge you $200. Oh man, my budget for this is only $200 for these t-shirts. I can't double it for the design. Well, go to Fiverr or whatever, right? You don't have to tell customers that. You could be able to handle that and make the artwork that you know is going to look great and sized to the right size too. So there is actually a customer mode, let's say customer mode in the EasyView Online Designer. You could go up to the top right-hand corner, click customer mode, and it hides all of the stalls Transfer Express branding, hides all pricing and turn time. So you could design with your customer, and they're not going to know the difference of like, is this Illustrator or Photoshop? If they knew what Illustrator or Photoshop looked like, odds are they'd be able to give you a print ready file, but they can't, right? So they're going to see your design program. They're going to see your artwork catalog. This is all hidden from the customer and a great tool. But you could verify the size very easily when you're ordering through stalls.com through the image uploader, and you see it even on your artwork dashboard as well before you make up a file. Before you make an order with your file, or over on Transfer Express, you could edit those here. Yes, Kathy, you cannot download what you create in EasyView. However, you can download a mockup, right? So if you want to mock it up, you see on that blue bar right on the far left-hand side of the EasyView design window right there, mockup is on the bottom, and you're able to be able to do that. So Kirsten, sorry. Great question. New to Stalls and Transfer Express, is there a video about using EasyView Online Designer? There is a webinar just like this one that went to some hours. We'll call it the full master class, but there are tons of videos. Mike might be able to link into EasyView Online Designer if you want to check it out. It's free. All you have to do is sign up for an account. And it will be coming, Rowena, I hope I pronounced that right. It will be coming to Stalls within the next probably month or so. Again, you didn't hear that from me, right? We're all friends here. We're just talking. But the EasyView will be coming to stalls.com. But if you can't wait, you could always go over to Transfer Express and check it out now. But there are tons of EasyView videos. There's even a playlist that we put together. I put all these, I think there's 16 videos of just tiny little snippets. They're like 2 minutes long. How do I do this one thing? So you could just kind of go through and you could try to figure it out on your own. But if you need help with like, oh, how do I ungroup art, or how do I change layers or whatever, you could go in there, watch this one little specific video, see the example live in motion, and then be able to go apply it yourself. But however you want to learn in a kind of more guided webinar session like this, or in just those little snippets, we have it all for you. We also have a lot of blog posts detailing the features and functionality of it as well to be able to do that. So Jeffrey, great question. Why doesn't, I need to move on from EasyView. This will be the last question I'll take on here. Mike will continue to answer him in the chat though. Why doesn't the mockup show the graphic dimensions? When you mock up the image, it's much larger and you have to change the size. But the size doesn't show up on the mockup, so you don't really know if the size is good on the mockup. I have a great tip for you that I use. So with our t-shirt like this right here, right? So we have our t-shirt on our guy. I could say this is probably about 12 inches wide, right? But I always guesstimate that the neck opening from bottom of collar to bottom of collar on both shoulder seams is about 8 inches wide. Let's see how close I am right here. Ooh, 8 inches is right there where my thumb is, right? So going from bottom of collar right here all the way around to bottom of collar, ooh, it's just a little bit over 8 inches. So I always size relative to this collar because it's usually a medium shirt in those mock-ups. But the reason that that sizing is not standardized is because those apparel styles are pulled in directly from apparel supplier. So the sizing differs of it, whether it's a flat lay or it's a model shot or they're slightly turned, right? Or they are like, some of them are like, I don't know, that they're just leaned over, right? So it's going to look a little weird. Some of them are farther away, some of them are closer up, and there is no set standard for knowing exactly how that sizing is, loading in those thousands and thousands of apparel styles that are available to mock up in the designer. So yes, we've talked about adding a grid that kind of pops in there, but again, we would have to size that grid for all thousands of those apparel styles. So yes, rule just easy, kind of like getting close enough is going to the shoulder. Now, I made a mock-up when I was doing a lot of pre-production. I think we actually sent it out with one of our past webinars when we were talking about mocking things up in EasyView Online Designer, where essentially it's like a grid, right? It's a grid overlaid in a Photoshop file that I could turn on and off, but I actually laid the shirt down, took a photo of the shirt with rulers that I matched that grid to, so I know it's specific to that garment, to that exact image of that shirt. And then I went in and actually digitally recreated all of the different colorways of the shirt, so it's the same shirt. Instead of laying down a whole bunch of different colors and photographing them, I just faked it. But it's a good, quick, easy mock-up, and it's a way for me to check exact placement and sizing, right? But Yes. Yeah. Great. I'm glad I was able to help with that tip because, yeah, 8 inches, that's kind of been my own little tip, and I try to share it every time, but I don't talk about mock-ups all that often. So a great way to get in here too. Hey, Glenn, thanks for dropping that link in the chat there to the all of those easy view tutorials as well. So here, we're talking about multiple sizes, right? So all of these adult sizes from the top left is extra small, and the bottom right is 2X. This print shown is quite large. So it's larger than 11 by 11. It's 11.5 by 11 inches tall. So we're talking tips of the wings there. So realistically, let's say those tips stick out a ½ inch. So realistically, we're at like 10.75 or maybe 10.5 on that box. So let's say, right? But you can see on extra small all the way up, and these are just hung shirts. So you can see all of that extra side fabric that typically is going to be on the side of a person. Because here's my side seam, right? So here's the end of my body. Here's the side seam. That's a lot of fabric on the side, right? And we're going to get deeper as people before we get necessarily wider, right? So a lot of that fabric does sit on the side. And this is why I say that coming from screen printing like I did, I would never, unless somebody wanted to pay a ton of money, I would never burn another screen of different sizes for the larger sizes. Then talking about the setup, you have to tear the job down, put another size up. So this is the same way with heat printing too. When Ultra Color Max and Direct Film makes it easy to order any size you need, right? But it's so much easier and more streamlined and more efficient for you as an apparel decorator to just do one size, order, print. Now, the main thing here, I have it in this bottom point that I put on this slide. Think about the uniformity when you're in a group photo. Everybody in that family reunion, right? Now, Grandpa Joe wears a size 3X and his logo's huge, but he's standing next to his wife who wears an extra small and her logo's super tiny, right? So you don't think about it, but it does look kind of strange when everybody has these differing size logos versus if he had the same size logo on his shirt as the same size on her shirt, looks fantastic. See this a lot as uniforms in restaurants, bars, grills, breweries, right? Where they're doing these larger prints and they're have a wide range of sizes of people working there, right? They want everybody to look uniform and look the same if they're all together, not kind of messy, right? Like it's just visually your eyes start to kind of think like, oh, something's off on that. And maybe you might not identify the size right away, but proportionately it looks fine. Now with this full front maxed out print area, right? It's going for that kind of more streetwear aesthetic anyway. So as it's full front on a extra small shirt and full front on a 2X shirt, it's perfectly fine. Now, of course, when we even talk about extra small or I would say probably 3X and up, those are very, very uncommon sizes to see for a lot of normal runs. Usually 2X, 3X is where the majority of my runs will stop. And we're in the Midwest here, so we're not in like California. And so perfectly fine. 11 inches for a full width graphic works great. We have a whole video here where I actually go in and print all of these. You could see these up close, and I bring them to almost any show, any expo and trade show. This exact same group of shirts, I bring them to almost any expo and trade show to show off that you don't need to be changing the sizing. You could simplify it for yourself. Your customer is not going to know at all, and they're going to look absolutely fantastic if they are in a group together, if they're photographed together, or whatnot. They are the same size. It simplifies it for you, the decorator. It saves you time, which time is money in any industry. And when we're talking about running a business and generating profit, you need to be accounting for your time. Helps in your setup. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here that's going to just save you in the long run instead of having to do different sizes for every size shirt. And I've heard decorators doing that, and I go check out this photo, right? The same one I'm showing you. It's going to look perfectly fine. They're like, man, I've been doing it wrong. Thank you. Right. So I just want to make sure that you guys are doing it right. So where should I place the top to bottom from a 5X shirt to an 11 by 11? That's a great question, right? Because now our placement is going to change as we are adding fabric, right? So with me, I know my shirt, because I am more deep, right? My shirt comes out instead of going straight down. So on an extra large, I might be that standard 3 fingers to the start of the graphic. Boom, right here, right? But on an extra small, now that space is going to go up a little bit. And you could actually see it here. I wish I didn't use black shirts, right? But you could kind of see it with that inside tag printed as well. where the collar is, where you can see on the 2X, the 2X is the bottom right. The XL is right there in the middle, large, and then the top row from left to right is extra small, small, medium. So they kind of go bigger as you would expect them to, right? So you can see that the placement of that top line is very, very close to the neckline, to that collar, because I wanted to keep it centered in placement to that bottom of the armpit, right? So the bottom of the armpit, I want to keep that graphic centered there so it's sitting in the correct location. So as you get to those smaller sizes, that's going to go up and up and up. So maybe that Boulevard one, and if you watch the video, I'm going to detail it because we filmed that one maybe 6 or 7 months ago. I don't remember exactly what I did, but I feel like that was like a 1 finger down. So like a 1/2 inch placement on the extra small, where it was, I think, 3 fingers or 4 fingers down to start the placement on the 2X, right? So there's going to be a big difference in those on the placement. We'll even get into that a little bit when we talk about these different placements coming up that are going to be a little bit different in those, right? So yes, when you're dealing with either a full big square graphic or an 11-inch wide just text, right? So there's going to be some differences in the placement when we talk about that as well. So when we're talking about these multiple sizes, kind of we already covered this a little bit. Setting up a gang sheet, if you're using screen printed transfers right here, 1 adult and 1 youth could fit on a standard size or even a jumbo size gang sheet right here. This is using layout QFB268 in that Easy View Online Designer. And then, right, if you only have a few youths and say they're youth large or youth small, size to the smallest of that and print for everything. So those, like I mentioned, you could probably get away with 10.5, and 10.5 is still going to look great on an adult, but it's going to help you fit within those seam areas on the youth garments, right? So sizing to, again, the smallest size on your order. As long as you're not printing like youth smalls or anything, you should have no problem. But differentiating, like I mentioned, that cut where we go between youth and adult, you're able to fit them and still lower that print cost, right? Here, tip number 3, with Max, it is not more cost effective to gang sheet. You're better off ordering the individual images by themselves in whatever quantity that you need. So Ultra Color Max makes that incredibly easy. However, could get a little expensive per print in those higher quantities because there is no price breaks with Ultra Color Max. 6 cents per square inch, order 1, order many, order however many as you need. Add them to your order or for little samples, photo shoots, anything like that. No color counting. So like with this and our screen printed transfers, you're charged per ink in your design. But for something like this, where it's just a 1 color print, absolutely awesome, economical, looks, feels like a screen print, direct to film. Don't have to worry about any of those colors, right? The Ultra Color Max, photographs, gradients, anything like that, you're able to reproduce all for just 6 cents per square inch. And those ship out next day. So that's great. So for 4 or 5X, that's a great question. How many inches from the collar? I'd probably say about 3 inches. Yes. So the standard center chest placement starts 1.5 to 3 inches down from the collar. I usually use my fingers, right? 3 fingers for me is 2.25 inches. Let's see if my fingers have gotten larger since then. Nope, 2.25 inches. Probably can't even see that, but my fingers have not gotten larger since the last time I was measuring my placement. We actually, we all kind of measured. I don't know where my ruler went. I had that nice little t-shirt ruler that I put somewhere. I don't know where it went. Oh, it's right here. Hey, look at that on my desk, right? So as we were making this ruler to be able to send out, that we were all saying, like, what should this be? Because this should be like this standard, right? And so we all were holding our fingers up and, oh, look at that. I like to say it's my finger. It's not. It's 2.25 inches, but it is identical. I don't know. My light's very, very bright today, right? So it is identical to the placement of my 3 fingers. Now, of course, when we do smaller shirts, it's going to come up. And of course, if we're doing taller graphics, just like we see here on the rodeo, it's going to go up as well, right? So I want to make sure it's going to fit there and look great. But this is a way that you could order those multiple sizes. Now, this is this quick placement visual guide. Let me turn my camera off so you guys could screenshot this if you want, right? Without my pretty little mug in the bottom corner. But here is a great visual placement guide. So this is showing you your full front, your medium front, just a center chest. So that goes a lot more into that minimal branding location. Across the chest, if it's just one word, your right chest, your left chest, those sleeves, the verticals, and those have great, I don't know if you could see them, but underneath it does have sizing kind of notes for those to say exactly what they should be. Although that across the chest should be 12 inches by 4 inches, not 4 inches by 12 inches. It's swapped there on that. But one thing we could really see here too is, say, that full front that's slated at a 12 by 14 inch area is a lot closer to the collar. And I kind of left a green line in there for even the center chest and the across chest, so you could kind of see those two placements. As that graphic turns super horizontal, you don't want it up here, right? Because we're trying to aim for that center line for the chest. So you want it a little bit lower so it sits on that center line, right? Makes sense? So you can see kind of where I left that green right up near the collar, which is where those other boxes are starting, right? So you go down. So that's where you would do a 4-finger placement or so down on that. So the same with left chest, right? The verticals, if you're doing the verticals on either side, usually those start in a left chest area and then they'll go down. I have some examples of them as we start getting into some more of these t-shirts here. So, but a great example right here. Last chance if you want to screenshot it. This is really going to put Mike to the task if he could find a PDF of this one. But as we email out the recap, if we can't find it, we'll pull this slide, and you guys are going to get a download of the slides anyway. So you'll get an example of this in those slides, but maybe we'll pull this one out as just a little quick placement visual guide to be able to send over to you as well. So definitely something to keep in mind. And then even the back placements down there at the bottom, full back, medium back, the locker patch area or the upper back, we'll show some examples of some differing sizes of that. This one says 4 inches by 4 inches to make sure it's all right there. Yeah, Julie, Carr, you guys are like, we need this, right? Super helpful, handy tool. And yeah, much easier to be able to have that as a PDF reference. But yeah, take a screenshot of it for your reference right here, right now, today. Yeah, and Mike's going to see if he could go find it. Perfect. So as we were talking about the placement, or we're talking about the sizing, we're going to move into placement here. And we've already been kind of mixing in sizing and placement as we talk about the placement ruler, as we talk about using our fingers. We'll talk about some other methods here in just a minute. But you can see right here, center of the slide, what I was talking about when we're sizing our artwork, right? To be able to find those raglan seams or even the hoodies, right, that I was talking about earlier. Here is a prime example when you're like, I want an 11 by 11 inch graphic. Well, if it's 11 by 11 inches up here at the top corners of the graphic, you're going to have a problem printing in that standard location on, say, a baseball shirt like that, like the raglan shirt. So same with the hoodie. You want to make sure that that height is going to fit from the bottom of where the hood seam is all the way down to the kangaroo pocket itself. And as you can see over on the far side, it might be that way as I'm reversed here, but over on that far side, we have that crosshair drawn on the shirt, right? So on a big kind of more rectangular graphic like that, you want the immediate center of the graphic to be where those intersect right there. So that's putting us in that, 1.5 to 3 inches ballpark from down from the collar, bottom of the collar, because collar widths vary, right? So we always want to be bottom of the collar down. So that one right there, but it is centered on that armpit sleeve. Say we're doing that horizontal graphic that we were just talking about. That's going to be on the baseline. You're not going to center it. It's going to sit like a line of text right there on that red line. So want to make sure that it's right there on that line. So Tom says, does anyone move their left chest logos further to the left on 2XL or larger garments or further to the right on youth? Tom, I'm glad you asked, right? That is so fantastic. And yes, you will compensate on some larger garments as it goes a little bit over, but there is one easy, quick tip that I always recommend. Does not work on youths, right? But go from the bottom of the collar where it meets the shoulder seam right here, right? So as we take that line, draw it straight down, and it's going to be right there. As you get to those larger sizes, the collars get bigger. Now, the caveat here is youth. Always move to the right. Always err on the side of center for children, because I mentioned the human body is actually quite a weird shape when we start talking about the fit and construction of t-shirts, right? Well, children are another wrench in the children are just another level of complexity on that, because their heads proportionately are not correct to their body as an adult is, right? Adults have much smaller heads because we've grown into our heads by eating too much cake and donuts like me, right? So, but children have these enormous heads and necks compared to the rest of their body. So On youth, you will see it typical, especially when you get into those 2, 3, 4T. If you go to the side of the neck seam, then that's actually like over here, right? So it ends up being that armpit print that you want to avoid. So definitely err towards the center on those larger sizes, or those smaller sizes, sorry. Err to the center on the youth sizes. And you have a little bit more wiggle room to go to the outside, but be careful. Don't go too far from the collar, because those collars will be proportional as you get up to those larger sizes, which is still going to put it in that right spot. So if you're measuring from like center line over, yes, on those larger sizes, you're going to go over, but you could always check it by just tracing a line straight down from that collar seam and putting it right where it needs to be. So yes, make sure it is there. Oh, I see a whole bunch of stuff coming in here. Talking about neon ink blue transfers. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything on placement here as we were going here. Carrie, the placement changes for standard placement. It's been the same for the entire time I've been in the industry, talking to other decorators like Rick from the Ink Kitchen and Mirror Image, who's been, in his words, not mine, he says he's been screen printing since dinosaurs roamed the earth, right? I know that's not true. Screen printing for apparel decorating only became incredibly popular in like the late 1950s, 1960s. So although screen printing's been around for textiles since the ancient times, definitely not dinosaurs. I'd love to see a T-Rex pull a squeegee, right? With their little T-Rex arms, right? Okay. We're having way too much fun now. But this is our standard placement and stuff. And I'm glad we went off on that little left chest tangent for those extended sizes, because that placement does differ. So most of the examples that I'm throwing out are for this standard, let's say small to extra large. You're going to be fine in that placement between small and extra large. There is, while there is a difference in the amount of fabric on those garments, the placement is going to be more than okay. Like I mentioned, human bodies are weird and irregular. So when somebody's like, well, that's 2 millimeters off center, your body, I guarantee, is 2 millimeters off center, as well as the sewing on the $1.50 blank that you wanted to purchase, right? So always things that we will be challenged with as apparel decorators, but we can overcome absolutely no problem. So here we see that standard left chest print. Man, I should have pulled this up, right? And we have another example here of a tank top, right? That does not follow that same rule, because tank tops, scoop necks, V-necks, things like that, the youth, those necklines are way larger than they need to be, or they need to be that size, but they are way larger than, say, a regular standard crew neck. So where the standard crew neck is going to be right here, say if I was wearing a tank top, that shoulder seam's like up here. Like the neckline comes to over here. So if I were to print that, that's going to be an armpit print, right? So let me go back to my huge one. So let's half this in half, right? So we got 4.5 inches by, say, like 2 inches or whatever, right? So if I take my neckline, go straight down, boom, 4 fingers is what I typically do, right? Let me back up even further so you could get more context of my my shirt size here. 4 fingers to the top of the graphic, trace the line straight down. It's going to put me in a spot on left chest placement every time. Every time, right? So as we go to larger sizes, we could go down a little bit farther over. As we go to those smaller sizes, just stay on the collar. Or if we go to youth, then we're going to be moving more in. So this is a left chest where I am perfectly on center line for the side of the graphic, and it still looks okay, right? So you could always err to the side of the center. You could always err up rather than lower or off to the side here. Nobody's going to wear this as a left chest print. Nobody's going to be jazzed about that, right? But here, yeah, okay, I'll take it. That's fine. That's still a left chest print, a little bit too centered. I would want it right here, right? But that's a perfectly placed left chest print. It is not above that armpit seam, right? If I put my arm straight out, not above that, right there, right where it needs to be. So tank tops, absolutely got to be on the lookout for that. Polos too, do not go lower than the buttons go. Now, women's polos can differ here because some of them don't have buttons and they just kind of have more of a like deep V-neck, which you're going to be printing before that V-neck ends. Same with regular V-necks, especially on women's. You don't want to be down there because then those prints end up down here on like a deep V-neck and you're going 4 fingers down. No, you're going to be actually printing higher than where the collar ends. Like say this little V, if you could see this little V in my shirt, right? If I was wearing this as a V-neck, the bottom of the collar is right here. If I went 4 fingers down, my print's down here. So I'm going to be printing pretty much even right there with the bottom of the V-neck. But that depends because some V-necks are just like little cuts. Some of them are deep Vs, right? Not the deep Vs that we had back in 2006, 2007. But hey, side prints are coming back, which were big in 2006, 2007. So I wouldn't be surprised if V-necks are quick to follow as well. So one thing to note here, because we see a lot. Sandy has a great question here. Judging by the bottom button placket on a polo, does it vary by size so you could follow it for a measurement? Yes. So those will scale proportionately, but because I don't want to just tell you, you're like, yeah, go to the bottom button every single time on like a regular male standard polo to the bottom button. That could be a good rule of thumb for most of them, but you buy a Nike or an Adidas, that's like a really super expensive blank, and then you're printing really, really low prints on it. So it does vary. What you could do, button it all the way up, take 4 fingers, go down, and that's going to be where it is. But as I mentioned, Nike and Adidas, and we're talking about left chest prints, one absolute keep in mind must is, I'm wearing a Nike polo, there's a Nike swoosh that is on the garment right here. When you lay that thing flat, you have to absolutely match that placement. It doesn't matter if they put it low. If you print up here and that Nike swoosh is right here, it is going to look so weird, right? So it doesn't matter. Same with pocket tees, right? Pockets are sewn inconsistently and crooked all the time. Do not put a perfectly straight print. You always have to match to whatever is already on the garment. So Columbia, Adidas, North Face, all of those brands that champion, right? Polo, even some of those Brooks Brothers styles, right? I think Mercer and Metal even has some that have like a tiny little decoration on them, right? So all of those, if they already have a decoration on them, you need to match the same exact placement of where it is. So even though if your logo is larger, center it to where that is, right? Baseline, if it's just a line of text, exactly aligned, because the worst is when you have a new Nike swoosh right here and you have a logo up here. Super, super strange, right? Now, one thing I do want to mention about left chest before we move on is that since the pandemic, we have seen a shift of left chests moving higher and higher, right? And that's for a kind of a good reason. We're all on Zoom. We're all doing video conferencing, or we've seen the rise of streamers on the internet, Twitch streamers. So I was working with one. We were doing some sublimated jerseys and stuff that were like esports, but they wanted the main logo right up here on the shoulder that mirrored the shoulder line. And it was because the people who are wearing the uniforms were going to be talking heads, kind of just like how I am right now. And they wanted their logo to always be present. So we saw these logos start to move up as, salespeople or healthcare workers are working, the teledoc and everything like that, where the logo is moving up almost even to the bottom of the collar. So when they're in a little tiny window like I am right here, then you can still see the logo. Because if I had this in a standard placement, let's just go to 4 fingers down. And I was just a little talking head right here, like I was on Zoom or talking to you on a webinar, like I am right now. You can't see the logo at all. So we've seen a trend of these rising up. But say you're doing uniforms for a landscaping company, a local bar, a brewery, a school district, stuff like that. People who are not on camera want that standard placement, because otherwise, when you're just walking around in public with a logo up here on your sleeve, it looks a little funny, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. Yeah, that's kind of high. I do agree, as an apparel decorator who has been decorating apparel long before the pandemic, but it's been a trend that I've seen a lot with Twitch streamers, influencers, and yeah, as people work remotely. Now, I think as remote work tails off or still stays at the same pace that it is, we may see that change and everything goes back to a regular placement. But I just wanted to add that as a caveat if you have any customers like that, because suggesting that, hey, would you like this a little bit higher? Are you going to be wearing this mostly on camera? Yeah, that'd be great, right? So yes, Willie, but I would absolutely keep that in mind. Austin asked, any webinars on managing client expectations like this specific case? That's a great idea. Let me note that down. Mike, put that as a note. We're going to talk about managing expectations. But see, this is where we got a lot of the ideas for content too. That you guys just let us know, because we want to be able to dedicate. I love that about my job, that I get to come to work and help people out every single day. Hear from you, your challenges, your successes, maybe a difficult confrontation that you had with a customer and a difficult conversation. How could we help you avoid this in the future, and how can we help other decorators? So cool stuff just like that. Now let's get into sleeve placements. I realize that we're already a little bit over time, but I still got all the styles that I want to show through. So I want to get through some of these. This senior shirt, hey, look, it's that raglan, right, that we were just talking about. But this is a sleeve placement, right? So sleeves are always a trending placement. The bicep print right here has really, really been getting popular. And if you're going to drop that in there, you see that as the one blue box on that. So not just the lower sleeve or the full sleeve, that bicep print for a small branding location. Think, yeah, Columbia, Champion, and North Face are all doing it, right? So all right here, like all of it right there. You're always going to want to go and put that anchor point from the seam, the closest seam. So if you're decorating down here, you're going from the seam down here. If you're decorating up here on the bicep, I usually say for me, it's about 4 fingers. But again, it depends on the style that you're decorating. Like here on this raglan, we don't have that. We have a collar seam and then it's just the full sleeve, right? But for a crew neck like me, right here is my seam. 4 fingers is where I'm going to start my graphic to be a nice little branding location right there. But then again, I'm showing you like a 1 inch by 1 inch print area. We're not doing a huge circle or anything like that, because then that huge circle, let's use our folded 4x4, which is going to be gigantic for this print. But essentially there, we're going much higher to center it right in that location than I was before. So here we are more of a 3 finger to the top of the graphic instead. So who knew paper could be your friend, right? Well, just a little square piece of paper. They're looking in a mirror. I'm just looking at my little camera here. Or if you have a mannequin. Now I will say, mannequins, when you're doing sizing and placement and want to show a customer setting expectations, or you're on the shop floor and you're trying to think what's going to look best, mannequins, even just like this one, are incredibly expensive. They're like $120, right? Sometimes even $150, depending on what they're made of or the capabilities. This guy doesn't have arms on him, right? He's just got these little like shoulders that kind of hint at arms, right? And it's really easy to put shirts on and off. And this is actually quite small. I think it's made for a size small shirt. This is a size large, so it's a little big, right? Look for a retail store or department store going out of business and closing, those TJ Maxx's or anything else kind of in your area that has mannequins. And then you could get them for like $5 and they're super cheap. Stock up on them. Go look on eBay, get them resold. They're usually typically quite hard to ship. So maybe Facebook Marketplace, but it's something I recommend to every apparel decorator have, because how easy it is to just throw it on a mannequin. Number one, they're great displays in your showroom. If you're talking with anybody, to just have up and like, wow, that shirt's great, right? So super cool. But also for placement, because laying a shirt flat isn't how somebody's going to wear it, right? And so here, I see exactly how this is going to, instead of saying, wow, there's a lot of fabric on either side. No, there's not. Somebody wears it just like that, they're going to look great, right? It's going to look fantastic. So I'm going to show you this actual shirt here in a minute. But let's talk about some of these placement tools, right? We already saw the ruler. You could get this one in the application kit available at transferexpress.com. Or if you come to a trade show and say, oh my God, Dave, thanks for making videos, or you mention anything about YouTube or any of our webinars, I'll give you one for free, okay? I've been trying to do it at a lot of shows, and I've ran out of them very, very early, so I've just been bringing more and more. But I'll give you a free application ruler at a show if you bump into me and say, and I still have them while supplies last, right? Bump into me and say, hey, just say something about the YouTube videos. You're the guy from YouTube, right? I'll give you a free ruler. But if you're not going to any shows, you can pick up the application kit. It's only $35 at transferexpress.com. Includes a ton of helpful stuff in there. The test strips, so you could test the temperature of your heat press. It comes with some paper cover sheets. So if you're doing anything messy or having to repress or press near an already decorated shirt or something, you could cover that and keep it nice and safe when it's under the heat. And a whole bunch of stuff that helps you be a pro. I think it even includes a mouse pad for raising print areas as well. So a nice little kit. All inclusive of everything you need to make sure that your heat press is working properly. Yes, that is, yes, it's in there. Application ruler is in the application kit that you get as part of that kit. Or yeah, come see me at a show. I'll have some. So this is great. I love it because it has the front center right on the line. I'll hold it up one more time in the light here. Let's see if it'll adjust it. There it goes. We have our center line. We have a left chest and a right chest location right here. So that is aligned when you align it to the collar. The downside of this is it only works for crew neck shirts. So no V-necks. Even hoodies could be a little bit more problematic as like it's more of a V-neck on it as the hood seams come together. But you could still use this. But this is great. Gives you that center chest. And it'll also put you in a perfect placed left chest too. Just get you in that right spot. You put it down. You set your graphic down, and then you remove the ruler before you press. and then you're all set, ready to go. So really super easy, really great for a quick reference, quick and easy to use, and very, very affordable. Now, something like a sliding T-square here aligns almost any apparel. Now, it's also going to give you a exact center line and then a outward ruler. So you could go, all right, here is my x-axis, here's my y-axis, and it's really great for being able to place numbers. However, I found when using these, things slide around quite often. Now you can see at top, there's even little arrows to say like where you should put it on an extra small shirt versus a 2X shirt, where it does differ in that size. So that's super, super handy. But when you're trying to slide it around and keep it locked in, these typically don't lock. And so they start sliding around and they start taking a lot of time on press. So maybe you use this to set up the first shirt. And then as long as you're loading the shirt on the press the same exact way, every single time, that you could start to just eyeball it and slam it down, right? So you're not even using your fingers anymore to align the placement. You've done 20 already, and it just becomes kind of clockwork when you start printing these things, right? But that's one thing I kind of mentioned, and I don't want to gloss over, is when we're talking about placement and print placement, especially using a heat press or your screen printing, the number one most important thing is getting your loading of the shirt down. Whether you're just laying over top or threading the garment on the platen, you need to ensure that you are loading it the same exact way. Side seams make it super easy because then you can look at the side of the press and just make sure that the side seam is parallel and even on both sides, right? You could grab the armpits and just make sure that those armpit seams, the sleeve seams on each side, are exactly the same distance on each side, right? My favorite thing to do when loading, right? You load all the way on. So the seam up here, the collar, everything comes down on that print area, and then you back it off to have that nice, firm, flat, even surface where you're not pressing over a collar or any obstructions like that, right? But when I put it on all the way, I know my hands are in the right spot on the bottom of the garment. I open the shirt up. I go all the way onto the platen. And by going all the way on, I ensure that it's not like halfway twisted because the top of the shirt didn't go on at the same way. So I go on, you can see the seams are usually even with like the platen edge, back it all off. And it's just a super quick, easy way to load the shirt. Exactly the same, regardless of the size, regardless of any sewing imperfections. And you're going to be able to get that same print location every single time, right? So that's almost more important than like using one of these placement rulers is getting your loading down, which is I love about threading on. And I come from, screen printing and screen printing with automatic presses too, where loading it on, you're opening it up like a pillowcase and you're printing upside down, right? So printing with a heat press or like the auto clam, like I do in a lot of our videos on the Stalls TV YouTube channel or Transfer Express YouTube channel, where I'll open it up and thread onto the auto clam as it's on the stand. It's great. And I see a lot of love for the tag-along platen coming in here right now. And I will agree, it's absolute fire, right? Love the tag-along platen for easy loading because now there is no backing off. You're reducing that step. You load it all the way on. Your collar is down because of that neck and collar shape of the tag-along platen. Even if you're not printing the inside tags, right? You're just printing. It's going to drop that neck line down. You don't have to worry about it. And it's super easy. That shoulder shape, you get just one look and you're like, all right, it's straight. Even if you're like not even looking, just throwing them on the platen, the shoulder shape helps like wrangle it and put it straight in. My favorite, when I used to screen print, my favorite were the triangular platens, right? So you kind of throw it in there and the neckline would sit perfectly straight every single time, right? The tag-along platen, identical to that, except it does you one better and even has like that neck and then shoulder shape. So it even cuts to fit a t-shirt, right? We're not rectangles, and it's a great platen. I recommend picking one up if you have a 16x20 Hottronics press manufactured after 2014. It uses the quick slip, and it just drops right in, right? I always have it on in our one in the studio, and I love using it. It is just absolutely fantastic. The time it saves you alone, not even talking about the potential to be able to print those other locations of the inside tag branding at the same time. And then I usually just add those prints onto my screen printed goof-proof transfer gang sheet. So I don't pay any extra for those tags. They're just in the extra room when I'm putting my gang sheet together. I'm buying an order with one ink for one customer. I put my own logos on it or put their logos on it. I charge, hey, for a buck more, I could brand these for you and tear the inside tag out. You could probably get $3 or $4 more for them retail. And I'm only charging you $1. Like, yeah, it sounds great. Yeah, because then it's private label. Nobody sees Hanes or Fruit of the Loom in there, right? It's great. Absolutely fantastic. So I love that you guys mentioned that one, the tag along. Kathy says I would probably be out of business by now if I had not purchased the tag along. So much easier than eyeballing. I agree, right? So let's finish up these placement tools. The laser alignment system, really, really super cool. It's great custom setup for any placement. It comes standard actually on the dual air fusion machines. But just like I mentioned with all of these other ways, if you are loading the shirt inconsistently, the lasers don't matter then. So they're a great set it. I use it sometimes to even like mark where the collar should sit, or if I'm printing on like a weird raglan seam or something, like mark those seams. It's great for the script and tail that goes at the angle. You kind of set the angle already up for it. But a lot of times setting up the lasers for me is not worth it when I have my fingers and I could place it, right? So when maybe you have some employees pressing for you and you want to make sure and they're not confident on their print placement yet to be able to do that, or you have a press, an experienced kind of heat press operator, or you come in and set the lasers up and go, this is exactly where you need to print. But if your press operator is not loading the shirt onto the heat press like this autoclam perfectly every single time, those lasers might as well not even be there. And they might even get in the way of you getting like measuring to the shirt and going, okay, we're going down from the collar here on the shirts, like on the where the collar meets the shirt, comes on down. Boom, right there. So Karia says the laser base accidentally scoot on the equipment card. So it does not. It is actually quite a heavy base with rubber feet. So it does not move around, but it needs to be placed just like this within 14 inches of an autoclam or another press. So like say you have a fusion, obviously you're going to have to put it on the other side because the fusion swings away. So it could get in the way. If your workshop is set up for it, then absolutely it could be really helpful. We've seen, I've seen in all of the print shops that I've worked at, lasers mounted on ceilings, lasers mounted on like pipes that come up that just come out of the table. And this one has this gooseneck design that makes it really easy. All of those lasers are adjustable and kind of mixes the both of those worlds without having to MacGyver it and without having to do like a system that might vibrate. I've even seen some people use like super strong magnets and magnet them to the top of like an autoclam. So when the autoclam's all the way open, but now you work with the vibrations of the press moving. And I'm going to bet regardless of how strong those magnets are or what duct tape you're using, that they may wiggle loose. And then if you're trusting the laser and the laser is not accurate, you're not getting accurate placement. So the laser alignment tool is really cool, but your shirt consistency when you're loading it is super, super important. So here are some great unique print placement locations. So we're looking at the upper back or the back in front of the shirt here. So you see that side left chest print like we were talking about, the side prints that are coming back, the locker patch tag down on the bottom front of that shirt. I'll have some examples we'll talk about here in just a minute. And then the back of the shirt, the upper back, super popular. You see that one off to the shoulder blade? I like to call that one the North Face print, right? So like that's where North Face puts their logos on the back of their fleece on that shoulder blade. Looks sweet. A spine placement right down the middle of the spine is becoming incredibly popular, especially when we talk about athleisure and performance wear. And then, of course, the back bottom prints are coming back as well. So like I said, 2016 is coming back. 2016 is coming back, right? So like I mentioned, that little diamond that we're doing right above the pocket, centered to the pocket, right? That pocket might be a little bit off center. And with that pattern, it's going to look absolutely phenomenal. And mostly that you keep it up right there. So Katie has a question. Would the mouse pad that comes with the kit be helpful for printing on the back of the neck? Yes, absolutely. It's perfect for printing on any obstruction, whether you're printing in seams or the back of the neck and you can't thread the garment on. Threading the garment on is going to be the best #1 in general. But if you don't have the press capabilities to do that, that mouse pad is a quick, efficient, easy way to do it. Also, because they're only like $2 or $3 to pick up, you could easily just cut them up. So say we were printing on a pocket itself, we just put a little piece of a mouse pad in the pocket so it raises the print area. We don't have to worry about any of the seams. We don't have to worry about any ink falling into those seams or anything, or any application issues, durability issues, washing, or anything like that. Nope. Raising that print area, I use those mouse pads way too often. And I have a stack of them that I've cut up for little sizes. Like if you're just printing, say, like on the cuff right here, right? There's a seam on the inside of every long sleeve shirt. So you can't print directly on top because the seam is going to show up through the print. So put a little mouse pad in there. So yes, a mouse pad would work absolutely fantastic with that. Let's see. Shaquel says, one last question. I have the laser alignment system. Is there a way I could order another one of the alignment charts? I do believe you could get those alignment charts from stalls.com and or Hottronics has those available, but we could check into that and answer that for you as well. Yeah, customer service. Oh, Mike already jumped in there for customer service, but I believe I have seen those charts by themselves, the alignment ones, because those are cool. We use that in the perfect placement positioning video, which covers a lot of the stuff that we talked about, like these different print placement methods, but we actually go through and use them. And that little placement guide is great because it's formatted to sit on a platen, and you could kind of fold through things to get these different line placements that really make it helpful. Kathy, great tip. If you're using the mouse pads, be sure to lower your pressure, and that's absolutely true. You are reducing the print area of your press. So while your press thinks it's the full 16 by 20 surface area for your pressure readout, you are now condensing it to a little small 4x4 or 8x8 area, which is going to increase the PSI, pounds per square inch, because now you're only focusing all of that surface area, 16 by 20, down to one little area. So you will want to back off your pressure for sure. Now, this is a great example of some very, very trending print placements. One thing we've seen this year a lot is multiple print placements. So while we're talking about these unique print placements, this is a great example of it. So I want to say that left chest, the Palmetto League that we see there at the top, is more of a just part of this center chest graphic. But we have a left chest, we have a center chest, right? We have a bicep print right at the top of that graphic saying, looks like it's calling out what division that baseball team is in, maybe Atlantic Division 1 or 2 or something. And then it has like a little like logo of that division on there. Now, on the cuff, that very, very popular placement is just the Raiders baseball. And then, of course, right above my head is the locker patch tag. So that like champion tag. And actually, come to think of it, whatever I'm wearing today has that decoration too. So look at that. That is a super trending placement as we talk about this lower left side of the garment right there. Now, this one's a woven label that is, I believe, heat applied. No, it might be stitched. Yep, it's stitched. But essentially, that you could get that placement there with just, I believe this one here is a screen printed transfer, the goof-proof screen printed plastisol transfers from Transfer Express. You could get all of these print locations all on one sheet, probably multiple ones all on one sheet. So yes, definitely something on there. I saw somebody did say that there was a chart for reducing pressure per print surface. And Mike was able to put that one up there already. So thank you, Mike. He's the hero that we all need and deserve, right? So be sure to give Mike a good shout out in that chat for keeping these links coming as I stay focused on this content here. So here, starting to roll through, and here we go. Trending print placements. This is this left chest and this full back that we've seen a lot. I actually have this exact shirt here with me. And so this is printed on a Portland company PC099, which is the kind of the comfort colors. It's the pigment dye. It has this woven label just like the comfort colors. Let me go full screen because I'll just start showing off a whole bunch of stuff here instead of the slides. If I got the real thing, right? You guys want to see the real thing? We'll show you the real thing here. All right. Let's move on over here. And so this is our left chest. Nice little left chest print. The best is yet to come. And a nice full back print. So this is a very trending t-shirt that if there's anything that I've seen the most in 2023, it's a left chest and a back. But check this out. On the sleeve, we have a nice little branding location right there. Reed and Rose. Let's see if that'll focus. Let me hide my face so it focuses on that instead, right? Nope, it's just focusing on my face now. Let's bring it back towards my face. There we go. Reed and Rose. Right there, you see that nice branding location on sleeve. And this is where you would want to use either the tag-along platen or you would be using a mouse pad to raise that up because just like I mentioned, there's a seam right there at the bottom. So if we were to lay this flat and print, well, this one's okay because we're doing kind of out of the way. We could keep it out of the way so that seam is not there if we're just laying it flat. But definitely, maybe like that. If we were laying it flat without any wrinkles, we might have a little bit of a line in that. So that's one thing that we want to avoid. Now, one thing here I do want to show you. I think I showed you at the top, but we'll show you again. Whoop, Marcus, stay up there, buddy. He's like, man, I'm clocking out. Dave, you're going long on this webinar. But we're going to use Marcus. So here we can see all right here to make sure that we are in the right location. So that print placement right there, standard left chest. We're going to go straight down right here. Straight down right here from where the collar meets the seam right there. And 4 fingers to the top. So you can see that it works absolutely perfect. And check that out. Look how cool that little location looks. And on the back, we didn't talk too much about back placement, but I'll usually do about 4 fingers down for a standard. Now, if you're doing hoodies, make sure that your graphic's starting 5 to 6 inches. Usually 6 inches is where I'll go, because when you wear the hood down, it's going to cover the graphic. So if we had a hoodie, the hood's going to sit right about here and up when it's worn down. So we're covering most of the graphic. So I'd bump it a little bit lower, especially when you have names or numbers. You want to make sure that those are being able to seen 90% of the time that somebody's wearing a hoodie, the hood's down. So that's definitely something to keep in consideration there. So when we start talking about placements and stuff like that, this right here, very small center chest placement for just a little thriving, and it's a little skeleton that's just having a ball, right? But this is very, very on trend. You're going to see decorations like this all the time. And I think especially when you're looking at those brands, boutiques, Etsy stores, stuff like that, that you get this much smaller standard center chest placement. This was one of the examples that we saw in the slideshow itself, but we have a full 11-inch wide by 10-inch graphic. Now look at that, perfectly centered. And this is on, I want to say a medium, yes. So a medium, we have maybe 1.5 inches up here and maybe 2 inches at the bottom before we get to this seam right here. So this is going to be perfectly sized, even in those smaller graphics. And we've got a nice sleeve all the way down, right? Carrollton, all the way right down there, adding that extra print location for a very, very nice decorated hoodie. So something really great to keep in mind. We're going to try not to make a mess here. I'm going to make a mess. All right. I'm going to make a mess. Let me get the chat back up to see if you guys have any questions on here. How many inches from where the hood lays to the print? So on this one, are you talking like this one? So the hood here, we have this seam, and we could look at, that's 1.5 inches. So that's 1.5 inches right there. So that one's there. If we're going to do the back, right? What? That's a shirt. That's a t-shirt, Dave. Let's see if I can start staging these over here. So just like this. Now we're not on a mannequin, which maybe we could throw this on the mannequin, but let's just say right here, the hood is sitting right now like 7 inches down. So it's probably going to be more like 6 inches when it's worn, because we're going to put some volume in the back of this thing. But if we go up to that seam, we're just going up to the seam right there. If we go up to that seam, come on down with some volume in it. Yeah, 6 inches down on the back is going to be free and clear from that hood. So that's one thing to definitely keep in mind right there. Let's see. We're going to make a mess. I'm just throwing things on the floor now. They're on the floor now. In the name of decorating, right? So here we go. Another one. That's a great little center chest print, right? So that's cool, as well as a nice little locker patch in that bottom lower left. Pretty cool. And then we even have the placement up here with just the just that nice little upper back print. Now this one is going to be about 2 fingers, or let's see, it's going to be about 1.5 inches down. And this graphic itself is only 2 inches by just like 1.75 there. So that is a small 2-inch by 1.75 inch graphic, but a great upper back print right there. So that's great. So that's real cool. So let me just see in this. Back of the t-shirt, yes, the back of the t-shirt, I would do just like this one, about 4 fingers or about 3 inches proper. So 3 inches is going to come right here. So that's right to the top of that graphic from the bottom of the collar. So 4 fingers for me, 3 inches on the ruler. And yeah, I've been using my fingers for print placements for a very, very long time now. Oh no, I'm stepping on my t-shirts. This is just being a mess. Sorry, guys. I just want to show you some really cool examples, right? I love some cool examples. Here is when we talk about cool examples, right? This one is killer. This is the metallic flex style in a small little logo on a very, very nice quarter zip right here, right? But again, we have these seams we have to look out for when we're doing the print placement. And now this one right here, so if we go all the way up, right to 4 inches is going to put us kind of close right here. So just a little bit farther down. But on this one, looks absolutely phenomenal. We have this nice, man, I wish that would focus on that. Does that focus on that? Come on. So yeah, this nice, beautiful metallic. And I mean, this thing's on there, right? It's not coming off. Heat applied, no stitching, no embroidery that's going to be rubbing up against you and be all weird and gross with the Pellon scratching you. No, this is going to be a super nice, comfy print. And again, it's Adidas, right? So this Adidas print right here on that bicep. Look at that. We were just talking about those bicep prints, and here's Adidas on that. So a great example there. But yeah, if you haven't seen the flex style, you haven't played around with any of those dimensional emblems and patches, you got to get on it because that is a huge trend that we've been seeing with that premium decoration. Here, just a crop top, right? A nice standard. Let's see how big this graphic is. And this is a women's style, obviously crop. I would look fantastic in this shirt though. I don't want to say I won't, but this one here is 10 inches wide, 10 inches wide. So on a women's shirt, 10 inches wide, we could go 11 inches wide for that huge max kind of like athletic look. Definitely in there. We talked about all of those sizings in there, and of course, they're all just suggestions. And maybe this will be, sizing to the smallest size on the order. It's going on an extra small. 10 inches wide is the max that we could put before we start running into those seams. So a great way to look at that one there. Let's see. Another cool little just tiny minimalist upper back print that's right up there. We do have on this one the inside tag print printed with that tag along platen just right there, as well as just a standard full front. Look at that. 3 fingers down from the collar. So you can see exactly where that print placement is and looks great. Now here, when I talk about 2006 or 2007 coming back and all of those side prints, here you go. Nice tiki bar right here, a little tiki guy on the bottom. Whoop. We have our left chest print location. Again, 4 fingers there, straight down from up here, right there to the middle of the graphic. So we have our nice left chest. We have a big tiki guy here on the back. And then, now this I would consider still an upper back print, right? But it's starting to get a little bit larger. This one is in probably a 4.5 inch range. Yeah, 4-inch range. So it's sitting more of a middle back in between the shoulder blades. But I would imagine this right here is more of a employee shirt, right? So it's always tiki time. Maybe they sell these as merch too if somebody wants to walk away with them. But this is something that you would see as employee gear. Say they're wearing an apron or something that the strings are going to cross right here below it or whatever it may be. It is a nice kind of out of the norm, unique placement that you could use. This one here, another little upper back print. Now this one's a little bit larger in that kind of very similar branding location that we see often. That's 3.5 inches wide on that. And then just a work hard, be nice, and another inside tag all right there. I think this one's on a maybe a little low, but for text, again, we are baselined with those armpit seams. So as long as we're above the armpit seams, we're not going to be hitting a belly print. So definitely something to keep in mind right there. Now, when we talk about those smaller prints for the back, like we saw on the Tiki Bobs, here is a very small little truck, right? Little tiny truck. These minimalist placements, we'll say, look absolutely stellar. Right there. So while this print is very small, it has that nice impactful branding. 5 inches, looks absolutely fantastic, right? Looks great. I see a chat in there. What's the side print size? It's not on the print guide. So you're probably talking about Tiki Bobs, right? And then so for the side, a Tiki shirt is just a customer preferred placement. Yeah. So like that would be recommended. That might be something you might want to mock up to show a customer to be like, hey, check this out. Look how cool this looks. Let's pull the hanger off this and we'll put it on our buddy Marcus right here. Come on, Marcus. It's t-shirt time. All right. So let's see how this print placement looks. And then I'll be able to show you a little bit how this is going to look. Oh. All right. So that one there, like that looks so cool in the middle of the shoulder blades, doesn't it? Like that's a great placement. But here on our side right here, let's go ahead and pull this up. So that would look cool underneath the side. Of course, this is a tubular tee. Any side seam tees, you're going to want to probably avoid printing on the side like this. So definitely choose a tubular style like this. Of course, I took the label out. I think it's a Portland company. I'd say a Portland company PC 150 or a 450, which are are some of my favorites for the cost. So here, let's just say this is about a 7.5 inch wide and tall. Let's say 10.5 by 7.5 inches. Now this one too, when we talk about those placements and sizings, you want to be sure this is a medium shirt, I'm sure, or I'm guessing. But a medium shirt here from the armpit seam down to the bottom is only 15 inches. So you're going to want to stay away from that, okay? You're going to want to stay away from maxing this print area out, which we are really close to, because then it makes it incredibly difficult to print because getting this to sit flat on a heat press is really hard. or then you have to use a smaller one, like maybe a 11 by 15 or something like that, right? So even on this one, you can see that this is a perfect example of a smaller mannequin, and this right here going a little bit farther out. But you can see that there's plenty of room if that was actually a large shirt being worn on that. Let's see. What about placement of numbers on the back of jerseys, 8 inches, center it over the armpit? Yes. So that's a great idea, is just centering on that, because that depends on if there's a nameplate or if you're doing a jersey and there's like seams and obstructions. I have an example coming up that we'll look at it, but let's just keep going through these because I'm going to get through them all, right? Here's a pocket print, right? This pocket is sewn a little inconsistently, right? So we want to match immediately on top of it. So we are perfectly centered. The pocket does have this little like bend in it, but as close as we could get, and then printing on the pocket too. So, right, there's some really cool stuff that you could do with pocket tees. Why don't you focus, man? So here, whether you're above the pocket or on the pocket, some great print placements that you'll see trend this year and into next year. I think even I'd say those pocket placements have been trending for the past like 3 or 4 years to be incredibly popular. That raglan, right, that we were talking about. This is Vikings, right? So let's look at this graphic and see if it perfectly illustrates what I was talking about earlier. So here we are at 10 inches wide, number one. But if we were to be in that standard print location, let's say 3 inches up, we are hitting those seams, right? So that's why it's dropped down a little bit lower. Now, still not below those armpits. I would like to probably center this up on those armpits, but this is a wider neck too, right? So this is going to pose a challenge for those when you're doing those, say, left chests. But left chests on a raglan never really work out too well because you have to deal with the raglan seam them too. So we have an inside tag print right there. Of course, on the back side, we've got a little Viking pride in that upper back, as well as, just like we saw on that slide before I turned off the slideshow, nice little sleeve print right there, kind of on the upper sleeve, because this is a 3/4 sleeve as well. So imagine that one's going to be kind of sitting right along that bicep. All right. So we talked about left chest print sizing, and people were like, well, people are sizing a lot smaller, right? And saying that the left chest looks large, right? So they're saying like, well, you do that 4.5 by 4.5 inches. I don't know where my paper. Oh, here's my paper, right? 4.5 by 4.5 inches looks large, or maybe a little bit more athletic. And I would say you're right. So here is a nice logo. This one appeared in our trend guide, which maybe I'll see if Mike could grab one more link for us and that fall trend guide. This was one of the styles that we used in it. This is a dry duck anorak jacket. So a very, very premium option. We put Ultra Color Max on it. And this graphic here, I'm going to say is 3.5 inches wide. Yep, 3.5 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall. But looks absolutely stellar. Looks really cool on this really, really nice jacket. Now, this jacket is super premium, a nice super premium feel, and you can't even feel that print on it. Has this nice stitching or this nice pattern on the inside. But this is the dry duck anorak that's in that fall trend guide. And we'll see if Mike could find the link for that one. But this is one of the styles that we did, along with some of those flex style options. And I got one more to show you here to show some of that placement. But this is definitely a much larger print placement that you're going to see. I wonder if this one has any branding, because you'll see even sometimes the manufacturer's branding on these cuffs. And this one looks like it doesn't have it. No branding on the bicep print, but that's where like you would kind of expect it from these outdoor kind of brands. So a really nice premium option. Say you're doing schools, this is something that's going to the coaches, the coaching staff, the administration staff, maybe the teaching staff. This is definitely not something you're selling at the Spirit store on Friday night during the game, although this very much might be a popular option as well. So for parents and stuff. So great stuff here. And I got one more here to show you. What kind of transfer is on this gray jacket? This is direct-to-film Ultra Color Max. So the super, super versatile, this is just a polyester shell, 100% polyester shell. I'm going to hide my face so it focuses. I can't see the screen, so I don't know if it's focusing on it. Oh, look at that. When my face is out of it, it focuses on the print. But this is Ultra Color Max. You can see it's soft and pliable. It moves with the fabric, right? And you can barely even feel the print. From the inside, not even there. Can't even feel the print on that. So it's not thick. It's not heavy. And I mean, I can't get too close with it, but you can see that it is absolutely on there. Regular application instructions. Just a really incredible, versatile product, right? You could order just one of those to show as display, put it in the case, put it on a mannequin, right? And just put it right there in the display case to see if people have interest in it. And what 6 cents per square inch on a 3x5 image, right? So we are that's cheap. It's real cheap, right? So be able to decorate that. This is the last sample I have in real life to show you here today. But again, minimal branding. And like we talked about when we were talking about maybe doing numbers and have this like seam where it gets a little weird. Usually you'll see them up here on like football jerseys or like basketball jerseys have like the nameplates and stuff. So you'll want to be a little bit lower, but you want to stay in the back, right? Always err on the higher side, especially when you're doing youth stuff. I bet you've been to a little league baseball game where the kid's numbers are tucked into his pants, right? Because those numbers are printed way too low. So it's always better to be a little bit higher than a little bit lower on that. But with this one, so where our standard left chest might actually put it a little bit closer to this button, but I feel like this button goes down real far. Let's check to our armpit seams. Not too bad, right? So we still want to make sure that we're up. Maybe our regular left chest is going to split right here on the seam. We want to avoid that. So we always err a little bit higher and a little bit more towards the center. This one's aligned perfectly with where our collar comes down. So that's a perfect left chest print location. Now, coupled with that trending placement, again, Ultra Color Max, putting it right on here on the sleeve. So that one real close to the sleeve seam looks nice, just bay view. I believe this one might be 4.5 inches wide as it's just text. Let's see if I can measure it real quick for you guys. Yeah, 4.5 inches, 4.5 inches wide. Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. I got close enough, right? But this is also another style that was in that fall trend guide. So you could see this, all of those other styles by downloading that free guide that you could take home and use as a reference. You could pitch it to your customers. You could just look at all of the cool trending decoration techniques, right? So it's fantastic. Terry says we always pull Ultra Color Max hot. Yes, hot peel. I love the DTF that's a hot peel. The goof-proof screen printed transfers that I use all the time is a hot peel, as well as Ultra Color Max. Makes it so simple, quick, and easy to just, you're flying, right? No need to wait for it to cool down. And a lot of times with cooling it down, you have to put it back on press and like cover it and repress it. But to allow it to cool down, you have to take it off the press. So you're doing twice the work. Why not just get a transfer like Ultra Color Max that does it in one step, looks phenomenal, feels great, is super affordable, right? That's why it's great. So it's fantastic. It comes off nice and hot. Yeah, make sure. Oh, Kathy has a great tip right there. If you're having application issues, especially on like fleece or heavier garments, you got to be pre-pressing them, especially when they're cotton dominant. They trap so much moisture from the air like a sponge that you're trying to push ink down when steam's fighting up. You're just going to have a bad time on that. So let's see. I got a few more, I think, here, styles that I may have not shown here for some trending print placements. There's that left chest and another side print with that Jefferson Wildcats. And hey, it's old Tiki Bob. Look, it's your shirt. We're having too much fun. Of course, then that left chest that goes vertical and another sleeve print, some yoga pants prints right there. And then there's that spine print with all of the shakas or the whatever those might be. The I am, I seek, I do, I love, I speak, right? So that positivity that goes down definitely for some yoga gear is fantastic. And here, there's another one of those left chests. But if you could see there, that hearts one is a great example. You see the collar of that tank top and where those hearts start, where it starts to go down, it's much farther in from where we would typically do it because that neck is wide. So that placement's going to sit a little bit there, more there. The bottom of brims coming back again, like it's 2002, 2003. We see a lot of printing on the underside of brims, especially on like those foam front trucker caps. And I'm going to hide my picture here real quick so you can see these sweatpants that have that embellishment down near on the lower part of the leg. So really, really great placement, really stands it out as unique. And I believe that one is also one that's going to be in that fall trendwear guide as well, which I don't know if Mike linked in there. Mike, if you're able to find it, that's the last challenge I have for you, Mike, is find that that fall trend fanwear guide. But here we're going to be all wrapped up as Mike finds that. I will hang around here for just a couple questions to be able to help you guys out in anything, whether it relates to placement, whether it relates to sizing, whether it relates to different transfer types or whatnot. So I'm going to head on over to the chat here, but you guys could always stay in touch with us. Stalls.com, transferexpress.com, the two divisions. Stalls typically is going to have your materials, your heat transfer vinyls, your equipment, your dimensional emblems and patches, and of course Ultra Color Max, where screen printed transfers, custom transfers, of course Easy View Online Designer is going to be over at transferexpress.com. So Jerry, thank you for hanging out. Terry, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you hanging out. Could I please show that large poly jacket with the left chest again? Katie, absolutely. Let me grab that one. Is there a guide for left side placement? So we do have some of the unique print placements that we do in some of our videos. What transfer is best for a chest logo? It depends. So if you want to do something with a little bit more premium sizzle, definitely the flex style embroidered patches, the woven patches look absolutely incredible. If you want to go more on the budget end, absolutely Ultra Color Max is a great option for the left chest. If you're doing high quantity in only a color, like one or two colors, definitely something like a Goof Proof is going to be the way to go. Here is that dry duck anorak here, which is this nice kind of big, almost parka style jacket. Let me zip it up here so we can see what this placement looks like. Oh no, now my hanger's getting all crazy, and I'll go full screen again here just real quick because we're done with the slides here. But yeah, make sure you're over and subscribe to the YouTube pages. All of the on-demand education all the time on there. So this is this really, really nice zippered pockets, nice premium option. Dry Duck is the brand, right? So this one's great. This does it does have a waterproof coating, but it did not prevent any issues with us decorating this one. No need to rub it off with alcohol or anything. And especially for like outer wear that's not laundered all the time, get it on there. So Sophia says, I just missed the webinar. Will this be available online? It absolutely will. And because you were registered, we'll send you a link with the slides that we covered today, as well as the full replay. So you can watch on demand anytime. And it'll be over on our YouTube channel as well at Transfer Express or Stalls TV. Transfer size for the side transfer was 7.5 by 10 inches on the Tiki shirt. Yes, let me grab my ruler here and we'll go back to the Tiki shirt. Tiki Bobs. I could go for a tiki drink right about now. Let's see. We got this one all the way over. Yeah, 10. Yeah, 10 and 10. Say 10, maybe 10. Here. I'm going to do you one better. We're going to take this one off old Marcus here, and I'm going to lay this down flat to try to measure this so we can tell you exactly what it's going to be. Here we go. 7.5. 7.5 wide. So as we talk Tiki Guy wide, that's 7.5 inches from tip to tip. And tall, we're looking actually at 10.75. So 10.75 from top to bottom, 7.5 from leaf tip to leaf tip on that one. Yep, Wyatt, that is right. The jacket is not available on Stalls. I believe we got this one from S&S Activewear. If you have an account over at S&S, check them out. They do fantastic work. I love the Decoration Myths series that Josh does on the Stalls TV YouTube channel, where they decorate stuff like this, where it's like, can you decorate on waterproof? And Stefan comes from S&S, and it takes these cool styles and goes, somebody said they can't decorate on this. Josh, let's do it. So they put it to the test. It's kind of like Mythbusters, but with apparel decorating, and I love it, right? Super entertaining, and I always learn something. I've been in the decorating industry here for a long time and hasn't done it and haven't seen a lot of those things. Chuck says, chest placement on a lady's T-shirt, please. Is it the same as men's? Or on the higher side? So when we say, let's see if I can find one of my left chest ones that I used. All right. We'll grab this one. I'm going to put this shirt back on our mannequin right here so I can kind of show you. Because you are going to want to err on the higher side rather than the lower side. Typically, women's garments sometimes have scoop necks, so you're not going to be able to judge off the neck placement as well as maybe something else. And misplaced left chest placements could look very unflattering on those styles. So here, where we go 4 fingers down, maybe you're going to go 3 or 2 fingers down from the collar, especially if it's like a little bit lower of a neck, right? So it's not going to be that high, tight crew neck line. And so you're going to want to make sure that this placement goes a little bit higher. So definitely it just depends on the exact shirt that you're doing. But say we're just doing a regular women's crew neck, just like this one. We're going to want to make sure that we're aligned to the side of where the seam, the shoulder seam meets the collar. Draw a line straight down. That's going to be our center line for the placement. And then we're going to put our logo right here, maybe 3 fingers down from the collar. So our logo will be right here, or even 2 if you want to up a little bit on the higher side. Any left chest placement, if you're unsure, go a little bit higher and a little bit more towards the center, because you don't want to end up in the armpit, right? That don't look cool. Now, granted, ignore that up there. But nobody wants to wear that type of left chest print right there. There you go. Nice left chest print placement, Marcus. This is also a large shirt on a small mannequin. So that one right there, that looks great. Alpha Broder, great suggestion, Garrett. That's a fantastic, great supplier there as well. Post a link to the Mythbuster-like videos. Go over to stallstv.com. They are all there. And if you subscribe on TikTok to Stalls or Transfer Express, you'll see those pop up as well. Over Stalls TV, and SNS Activewear also promotes those and puts those out as well. Those are great. Let's see. Mike, would you happen to know where the video is of Josh decorating clear vinyl backpacks? Ooh, that's a tough one. That is somewhere. Let me see if I can find that one for you, Kathy, because that is somewhere there as well. Love SNS. Love SNS. I love Sanmar too. I love them all because I bounce around to all of them. But Sanmar might be, don't tell anybody, but Sanmar might be my favorite. Just because the warehouse is in Cincinnati and it gets here next day. That's why I love it. But yeah, Adalex, thank you for tuning in. Let's see. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any questions in here going through. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Really appreciate you. And until next time, I'm Dave, and I'll see you guys soon, okay? Happy pressing in the meantime.